Okay, we're going to talk about what are called polynomials. And you can see the topic is adding polynomials. And maybe you've heard of the term polynomials and maybe you haven't. It doesn't make any difference. Usually when people hear the word polynomials, and if they haven't worked with these before, it can be maybe a little intimidating type of word because it sounds complicated, but really it's not. We've been working with polynomials the whole year in Algebra 1. Some examples would be if I had 5a squared, or maybe just the number 4. Maybe we've got or have t cubed. Okay, all these are polynomials, and all a polynomial is it's in the form of an to the x power. And all this is saying is a is just a number. A is a number. And then we have the letter n that's being raised to some exponent. So all these, this is in that form, this is in that form, and this is in that form. Because 4, for example, the middle one, I can write it in the form of a n to the x. I could write it as 4, which is the number, and then I could write n to the 0. Well, what's n to the 0? Well, that's 1, and 4 times 1 is 4. So any of these are in this form. Now, regardless if you really understood what I just said or not, you still can do these. You can still do what we're going to do in this lesson, which is adding polynomials. Now, we've also called all these, and I'm going to underline this or draw an arrow to them. These are just terms. We've also called them terms. And, terms are polynomials, and that's why I say that we've been working with these most of the year. Okay, let's take a look at some specific definitions that go along with polynomials. Now, a monomial is just simply, let's see, mono means 1. And if I had t squared, okay, that's a polynomial, but it's only one term, right? So it's a monomial. Now, if I have two terms, a polynomial with two terms, like t squared plus 4, notice this is two terms. This is called a binomial. And remember, bi means 2. A trinomial then would be what? A polynomial of 3 terms. So maybe I would have a t squared plus a t plus 7. Anything involving 3 terms is simply a trinomial. So make sure you have this in your notebooks. Monomial is a polynomial with 1 term. A binomial is a polynomial of 2 terms. And a trinomial is a polynomial with 3 terms. All right, let's take a look at example 1. And the directions say add. It says write the answer in descending order. Now, as I look at in the red here, our example. Now, I have in this first one, this is a trinomial, right? It's 3 terms. And I'm adding to it a binomial. Now, with what we've been doing before, we know that with parentheses, one way to get rid of parentheses is to use a distributive property. Now, on this one right here, what's in front of the parentheses? Well, really, there's nothing, but we could say, all right, there's a 1. So you're going to distribute a 1, but what is anything times 1? If I take 1 times x cubed, well, that's x cubed. If I take if I take that positive 1 times a positive 3x squared, that's a positive 3x squared. And 1 times 2 is a positive 2. So really, when you distribute a positive 1, you're really just dropping the parentheses. Now, it's the same thing right here. So plus my 2x cubed plus my 4. And the reason I just dropped the parentheses is really I just distributed positive 1 and I get the same thing back that is in the parentheses. Now what I have here is a number of terms, and all I got to do right now is combine the like terms. So I have an x cubed, remember, is a one of those, plus 2x cubed. So that gives us 3 of the x cubes. Now I'm going to do the squared terms, and there's only one of them, right? So I have that plus 3x squared. Now I'm going to do just the numbers. A positive 2 plus 4 is a positive 6. Now what I've done is I've written this in descending order according to the variable x. So I've gone x cubed, x squared, and then nothing. And that's why I combine the cubed terms first, so that in the end I'm writing it in descending order. So what we mean by descending means highest to lowest. Notice I've written these exponents from highest to next highest to none. So x cubed, x squared to none. And this is what we call adding polynomials. All right, let's do another example. Now, in front of the first set of parentheses, remember I'm distributing a 1. Now, we've had some problems with this in the past, with that minus sign. Now, what are you going to do? What's in front there? What's in front of the second set of parentheses? And remember, we could say, all right, really there's a 1. So really there's a minus 1 since it's a minus. So you're going to distribute a minus 1 or a negative 1. Now, we also said in class another way to look at that is just, take the opposite of everything inside. All right, so let's go to the first set of parentheses. Let's distribute a 1. And remember, when you distribute a positive 1, really you just get the same thing back. So I have 3x to the 4th minus 2x squared plus 3. I distributed a 1, or in other words, just I dropped the parentheses. Now in the second set of parentheses, let's see, what is the opposite of x to the 4th? Well, that's a negative x to the 4th. And what's the opposite of a negative 2x cubed? That's a positive 2x cubed. And what is the opposite of a positive x squared? That's a minus x squared. So all I did there is I took the opposite of everything, I distributed the negative sign. Or really, I multiplied everything by a negative 1. Now, let's combine our like terms and let's write it in descending order. So first thing I want to do is do my x to the 4th. Remember, there's 1 of them there. So 3 of them, take away 1 is 2 of the x to the 4th. So I've taken care of the x to the 4th. Now I'm going to do any cube terms. So I have a plus 2x cubed there. Now I'm going to do the squared terms. So I have a negative 2, take away 1 more, right? So temperature drops 2, drops 1 more, it's dropped 3. So 3 of those x squares. And I've taken care of those. And then finally I have my plus 3 left. Now is this in descending order according to the variables? Descending meaning highest to lowest? It is. Because I go x to the 4th, x cubed, x squared, and then nothing. Alright, final example. First set of parentheses, distribute a 1. Second set of parentheses, just take the opposite of everything. Or in other words, multiply everything by a negative 1. Okay, the first set of parentheses, 1 times 3x cubed is 3x cubed. 1 times a positive 2x squared is a positive 2x squared. 1 times a negative x is a negative x. And 1 times 4 is positive 4. Or in other words, drop the parentheses. Now, the second set of parentheses, the opposite of x squared, negative x squared. The opposite of a minus 7x, plus 7x. And the opposite of a negative 5, positive 5. All right, so which like terms should we combine first? Well, pick the higher exponent ones. I only have one term, that's an x cubed, so I have 3 of the x cubes. Now let's do the squares. Remember, there's a 1 there, so I have 2 positive, 2 of the x squares. Take away 1 is 1, a positive 1 of the x squares. Some of you may prefer to write that as plus 1x squared, which is fine. It means the same thing as x squared. So I've taken care of the x squares. Now let's do the x's. Remember, you have a 1 there. So what's a negative 1 plus 7? Temperature drops 1, so it's 1 below 0. Goes up 7. That's a positive 6x. Now do your just numbers. Positive 4 plus 5, positive 9. And we've added these polynomials. And we've written it in descending order according to the variable. So this whole lesson is called adding polynomials, and all polynomials are just a simple description for terms, or in other words, things we've been working with all year.